Hey guys, it's Retro. It's time for another update on Path of Exile 2. The folks over at Grinding Gear Games are teasing us with patch 0.2 details bit by bit, and I've promised to keep you in the loop. Today we've got some juicy news about what's coming in this update, particularly around towers. Yep, those towering structures are getting a massive overhaul, and I'm stoked to share the details. Imagine this. Towers in Path of Exile 2 won't just be static map fillers anymore. They're about to become chaotic playgrounds packed with mechanics like breaches, expeditions, and even bosses. That's right, bosses. In patch 0.2, towers will mirror regular maps in terms of clear conditions. You'll need to tackle whatever spawns inside, whether it's a horde of monsters or a beefy boss, to activate or conquer that tower. How wild is that? Picture yourself strolling into a tower map, and bam, it's loaded with a delirium fog, or maybe a breach opens up right in front of you, and here's where it gets spicier. If you've got towers positioned close together on your atlas, popping a tablet into one can juice up its neighbor. Think about a tiny, claustrophobic tower stuffed with a breach encounter, narrow halls, enemies flooding in, and my detonate dead necromancer just cackling as corpses explode left and right. That's the kind of chaos I live for. With this update, towers won't feel like a chore anymore. Right now, I'll be honest, towers are kind of a snooze. I slap a low tier map in, blitz through, and call it a day. But with bosses, expeditions, and random mechanics, suddenly I'm intrigued. I might actually want to hang out in there. And it's not just the variety of content, GGG's mixing things up even more. Towers won't always look or feel the same. One might spawn as a corrupted boss arena with a breach thrown in for good measure. Then you hit the next tower over, drop a tablet, and now it's radiating some crazy mod like irradiated chaos damage on top of everything else. That's the kind of unpredictable madness that could make towers a highlight instead of a grind. I'm picturing a boss tower that's already beefed up, no extra juicing required. Just log in, and there's a hulking monster waiting to test my build. It's a small change in the grand scheme, but it's a step toward making the endgame feel less stale. That said, let's not kid ourselves. This alone won't fix everything. If patch 0.2 dropped with just this feature, I wouldn't be racing back to login shouting, "Towers have bosses now, I'm sold." It's cool, but it's not a game changer on its own. Speaking of the bigger picture, GGG's also brought on a new data analyst to dig into how we're playing. Their first task: figure out which ascendancies are dominating and which ones are gathering dust. This is huge, folks. It's like taking a snapshot of the meta to see what's thriving and what's barely surviving. Unsurprisingly, the Invoker is sitting pretty at the top. Why wouldn't it? That class is a dream to play. Tons of spirit, beefy defenses, and damage that just flows effortlessly. You've got evasion, armor, and that ridiculous unbound avatar nuke skill. It's no wonder it's clocking in at nearly 20% pick rate. Compare that to something like the Acolyte of Chayula languishing at a measly 1.15%, and you see the problem. Not every ascendancy needs to be perfectly balanced, but a gap that wide, something's got to give. Then there's the Warbringer, sitting at 1.53% pick rate. It's a warrior ascendancy that's supposed to shred armor, even dropping it below 0 for bonus damage. Sounds cool on paper, right? But armor's in a weird spot right now. It doesn't soak damage like it should, and breaking it below 0 doesn't deliver the punch you'd expect. I'd hope for a 30% damage boost or something meaty, but nah, it's underwhelming. Meanwhile, the Titan's at 5.48%, which makes sense. It's playable even if armor's still meh. On the flip side, the Infernalist is killing it as the go-to minion ascendancy. That demon forms a blast, though it could use some tweaks to shine brighter. And the Stormweaver, spark stacking madness, easy double shocks, and a solid 19% pick rate. It's strong, but it doesn't hold a candle to the Invoker's versatility. Now, let's talk Deadeye, another fan favorite at 12.66%. I adore this ascendancy because it's so flexible. Extra projectiles? Check. Bonus grenades? You bet. I've got a Deadeye build with double explosive shenanigans that just obliterates everything in sight. It's not as dominant as the Invoker, but it's got variety for days. What's shocking, though, is the Pathfinder at just 3.38%. Shattering Concoction is one of the smoothest, strongest builds out there. Grab some mana potions, pop off, and watch enemies melt. So why the low pick rate? Maybe it's underappreciated. Then there's the Blood Mage scraping by at the bottom. I've got a Detonate Dead Blood Mage that's my fastest leveling character ever. Hit 85 like it was nothing, shredded a tier 4 Ascendancy trial, and it only took one unique item to pull off. The builds that work are insane, but there just aren't enough of them to boost its popularity. Here's a curveball. The Witch Hunter's outpacing the Blood Mage in pick rate, which blows my mind because it feels so pointless. It doesn't bring much to the table. Meanwhile, the Gemling Legionnaire is climbing higher, and I get why. If I were running a mercenary build, I'd ditch Witch Hunter for Legionnaire in a heartbeat. That payload support device, double grenade explosions on my gas and explosive grenades, it's too good to pass up. And then there's the Chronomancer sitting at a pitiful 2.01%. I've got a level 83 Chronomancer that's honestly more fun than my Storm Weaver, thanks to the recoup life mechanic. Once you figure out how to stack it, you're basically immortal. But it takes know-how to make it sing, and the payoff doesn't feel as flashy as it should. Bump that 30% recoup to 40% or 50%, and maybe more folks would give it a shot. Here's the kicker, these are just the first tier ascendancies. Each of the 6 classes has 2 options now, and patch 0.2 is adding a third. That's going to muddy the waters even more. If the new Ascendancy is a banger that rivals the Invoker, low pickers like Acolyte of Chayula might drop to 0. GGG's got work to do. Not just balancing these classes, but fixing crafting's RNG nightmare and spicing up the endgame. I don't have all the answers, but I know the endgame's missing something. It's not gripping me like it used to. I'm not itching to play 24/7, and that's a bummer. Towers with bosses and breaches, cool step forward. Data-driven class tweaks, smart move. But we need more to reignite that spark. Let's pivot to some of the other goodies GGG's teasing. They've dropped hints about new items, like a helmet that lets you dual-wield two-handed axes or swords, but ditches your chest armor. Casual players might scratch their heads and go, why bother? It's niche, but I see the potential for crazy builds. The Morior Invictus chestplate is a godly piece, not sure if it would be worth dropping it. Then there's a hammer that's a chunky damage stick with mana regen and random shrine buffs. That one's more straightforward, though the shrine RNG could backfire if you roll something lousy like the gold shrine. And support gems. 5 new ones are coming, which is music to my theory crafting ears. I'm already plotting how to juice up my warrior's volcanic eruption skill, maybe make leveling smoother or turn it into a lava spewing monster. But the general vibe I'm seeing online, nice but not login worthy. These gems are so specific that they're not screaming play me to everyone. Patch 0.2 needs to hit hard. It's gotta be a slam dunk that drags us back into Wraeclast. For me, as someone who geeks out over build crafting, the support gems and tower changes are a treat. I'm hyped to mess with Volcanic Eruption and see if it transforms my warrior's early game, but I get it. Not everyone's drooling over tossing tiny lava balls that might whiff half the time. GGG's also flexing with a video of the Wrathbreaker slugging it out against the Silverfist Gorilla. I watched the whole thing, white-knuckled, rooting for Silverfist because I can't stand that Wrathbreaker jerk. It was hype. More of that, please. Show us epic fights. Get us pumped. That's the kind of energy patch 0.2 needs to bottle up. So, what's it gonna take? Keep the drip feed coming, don't leave us hanging, but bring the heavy hitters. For me, patch 0.2 won't feel complete without a new class. I'm crossing my fingers for the Druid, something fresh, primal, and versatile to shake up the meta. Imagine shapeshifting into a beast, hurling nature magic, or summoning woodland allies. That's the kind of addition that'd have me logging in day 1, no questions asked. Towers with bosses, neat. Ascendancy data, useful. But a new class like the Druid, that's the banger I'm craving. What about you, Exiles? What's on your patch 0.2 wishlist? Drop your thoughts. I want to hear what it gets you hyped. Before I wrap up, I've got some wild ideas brewing, and I'd love for you to weigh in. Patch 0.2 is shaping up to be a solid update, but it's got to deliver more than incremental tweaks to win us all back. GGG's on the right track, towers are getting love, Data's guiding class fixes, and new toys are incoming, but the endgame's still a puzzle they need to solve, and crafting's RNG needs some work to make it not feel like a complete gamble. I don't have the magic fix, but I know we deserve something that makes us nerd out like kids again. Alright, that's the rundown for now. Keep your eyes peeled for more. Patch 0.2 crumbs from GGG, they're trickling out, and I'll be here to unpack them. What do you think, Druid or bust? Or maybe you've got a different dream feature? Let's chat about it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for hanging out. Exiles, stay safe, keep slaying, and have an awesome day.